Hello and welcome to today's business English lesson. Today we are looking at business phrasal verbs or phrasal verbs that you can use in a business context. Let's go to the intro. Now, as you can see, we have a series of phrasal verbs which are quite common in English and are also common in business vocabulary. And they are bottom out, carry on, carry out, close down, cut back on, 3 words, lay off, look for, mark up, pull out of, again 3 words, put off, and scale down. Now here we have a similar word or expression that we can see what the phrasal verb means, because remember that phrasal verbs sometimes are difficult to understand on their own. For example, to bottom out, if you had to look at bottom and out and put the two together, I don't know what type of conclusion you would come to. But when you put them into a phrasal verb context and give them the meaning of the phrasal verb, we can see that it means to reach a low point. So, for example, if we're talking about a crisis or a recession and the economy bottoms out, it means that it reaches its lowest point. Now, some countries have recently gone through a crisis or a recession, and hopefully those economies have bottomed out and they are now starting an upward trend. Okay, so to bottom out. The next one is to carry on, and to carry on means simply to continue. Business carried on as normal. Even though we recently had some structural changes to the organization, business carried on as usual. It continued. The next one is to carry out, and carry out means do. So you carry out a plan, for example, okay? You carry out a new strategy, means that you put it into action and you try to see it through. You carry it out, you do it. The next one is to close down, and to close down means to shut. We could also just use close, it would be the same meaning, but in the phrasal verb sense we have close down. So we could say that during the recession or during the crisis, many small businesses were forced to close down. They were forced to close down or they were forced to shut. The next one is to cut back on, and to cut back on means reduce. So you can cut back on personnel, for example. You can cut back on the people in your organization. We all know that when an economy enters a recession, many businesses have to cut back on staff, or they have to cut back on other things, spending, for example, to cut back on spending, and it just means to reduce. Okay, so businesses have to cut back on spending, cut back on staff if they want to survive a recession period. Now the next one is to lay off, and to lay off means to dismiss in the sense of people. So if companies go through financial problems and they realize that their workforce or their staff is too big, then they need to lay off people or dismiss people. Okay, it can be 5, it can be 10, it can be 1,000, but it just means to dismiss people and reduce the size of your workforce, to lay people off. The next one is to look for, and to look for is to try to find. Now look for is a fairly common phrasal verb, but it means that you try to find. So you try to look for new business opportunities. You try to look for new markets in which to sell your products. Okay, so you try to find, you look for. The next one is markup, and markup is increase in price. Okay, you mark up prices, you increase prices. Okay, so you mark them up. An example of this would be, for example, that if you come out of a recession and you start to see growth in the company, you can often mark up prices in order to capitalize on the rejuvenated economy, for example. The next one is to pull out of. 3 words, as I said before. Pull out of, and it means to withdraw from or to leave. So, for example, your company has gone into foreign markets and business hasn't really been going all that well in those foreign markets. So you decide to pull out of those markets. You withdraw from, okay? You pull out of the foreign market. The next one is to put off, and put off means postpone. So you can put off a meeting, you can put off a plan, you can put off a strategy, but just meaning that you postpone it. You put it on the back burner, as we say. You postpone it temporarily or indefinitely maybe. And the next one here is to scale down, which is to reduce in size. So you scale down your business operation. Again, you go into a different economy, your business grows, a recession hits, and you decide to scale down or reduce in size the operation that you have in that economy. Now, thank you very much for watching. Remember that if you have a comment, please leave it below. Remember to share this video if you liked it on social media, Google+, Facebook, or Twitter. And I will see you in the next lesson. Have a good day. Bye.